Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection Podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadiens Connection Podcast. Right here on Rocket Sports Radio, where we, yes, of course, keep you informed, engaged, and entertained all about the Montreal Canadiens organization. And we have a great show coming up for you today. My name is Amy Johnson. I'm going to be your host for today's show. And in case you're wondering, this is episode 352 of the Canadiens Connection podcast, titled Habs Draft Preview. Who should the Canadiens target in the first round? Yes, 'tis the season for draft talk. We are just a few weeks away. And I'm certainly, of course, pleased to be joined in the studio by my co-host, who is our founder and president here at Rocket Sports, Mr. Rick Stevens. Rick, I don't know what's more exciting, the fact that the draft is coming up and we've got some exclusive interviews with draft experts on today's show, or the fact that it's Formula One week in Montreal.
Well, I'd say both.
Yeah.
Listen to the show and make sure you tune in on Sunday afternoon for the Canadian Grand Prix from Montreal. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be Lance Stroll's back. He's ready for his home race.
Back again after he crashed out in practice too.
What happened to the Ferrari that went into? Yeah.
Charles Leclerc, keep it on the track, please.
The fun part of that is, and as I said last week, that you're going to notice Montreal Canadiens, and we've already, if you've been watching the Sky F1 coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix, you've already seen a photobomb by Arbor Xhekaj and Alex Newhook, who were lurking in the background of the commentators on the track. Looked to be having a lot of fun. Patrice Brisebois was there. So that's always fun.
Always fun. And the draft and talk about the draft is definitely a lot of fun that we have every single year. And we've got a great show for you today. The first of our Habs draft preview episodes, talking about who the Canadiens should target in the first round. We have a great show coming for you. First, we are going to take care of some roster news. There's some trade speculation coming from some significant sources that we want to talk about. We have some updates on the Habs prospects in their playoff runs, as well as some news from around the hockey world. And guess what? You don't have to even wait until segment 2 for an exclusive interview, because we've got one in the first segment and we've got another one in the second segment. We've got someone who was at the NHL Combine last week who's going to join us on the show today to talk about what they saw, their impressions, things they heard about the Montreal Canadiens, and some of the prospects that how they looked, who the Canadiens might be targeting. And then in the second segment, our second segment is called Scout Evaluates First Round Draft Targets for the Montreal Canadiens. And that's right, we have a scout, a very well-respected scout, not his first time here on the show, who's going to join us in segment 2 to give us his deep dive on some of the top prospects available in the first round, talk about the 2025 draft class overall, and really then give his opinions on who the Canadiens could target if they do select at 16 and 17, and some of the options that could be available to them. It is going to be a packed show with lots of really great information, and it's going to get you buzzing and excited about the NHL Draft.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's great.
All right. And of course, we're going to have a really engaging question of the week for all of you, our listeners and viewers today. So you're going to stay tuned for that. Remember, if you have if it's an answer to our fan question of the week, or if you just have a question in general or a comment that you'd like to make about the Canadiens or their prospects, We want to hear from you. Be sure to put it in your phone. Our Rocket Sports text line is 5853-ROCKET. You can send us a message there anytime. Many of you do that. We always welcome to hear from you on our text line. You can also drop a comment on our YouTube channel, which you can find at InsideTheCanadiens.com. And of course, always hit us up on social media, whether it's a reply or a DM at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, or Instagram. We're going to start today with just a little bit of roster news because Elliot Friedman put some credence behind a trade rumor that's been swirling around for the past little bit on his 32 Thoughts podcast, stating that the Canadiens are looking for an upgrade at forward.
Okay, we know that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And
Elliot?
Yeah, thank you. And apparently they've been in on a potential trade for Nicholas Hague, who's currently being shopped by the Vegas Golden Knights.
Nick Hague's being, we've known that for a while, that Vegas Golden Knights are shopping him around the league. There are a few teams, including apparently the Pittsburgh Penguins, that may be interested. Looks like Kelly McCrimmon and gang in Vegas are trying to free up some cap space. Nick Hague is 26-year-old defenseman, picked in the second round of 2017. He's got the size, 6'6", about 240, that the Montreal Canadiens may be looking for. I don't know that he's all that terribly physical, especially for his size, but he's got a good shot. Not offensive, stay-at-home defenseman, rangy, good reach, that sort of thing. Is he an upgrade over what they have? Is he an upgrade over a Jaden Struble, who is apparently, not all that physical either? And whether Jaden Struble would be involved in this trade, there's been some talk about that, or whether it would be for draft picks. That's yet to be seen, but it's rumor season. As we approach the draft, and we're just 2 weeks away now, the rumors are going to get more prolific, and so it's not a surprise to hear that.
I'd be okay if this one stayed a rumor, I think.
I think so too.
I think. Believe it or not, we're going to dive right into the Habs prospect report because there's some really great things that we just need to get to.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world.
We want to get you right into our first exclusive interview of this week. And it's someone who, if you're a longtime listener, you've heard him here on the show before. He's a great resource, a wealth of knowledge, and always has really good information. And so to discuss how the Habs might approach the first round of the draft, we are very happy this week to be joined by Mike Augello. He is a Buffalo-based reporter who covers the NHL. And he's going to really provide an insider's view of the NHL Scouting Combine because he was there since he's based in Buffalo. He attends every year, and he was at the Combine. And so he's going to give us his insider's view and discuss some possible scenarios for the Canadiens' 16th and 17th overall picks. Well, it is definitely an exciting time of year in the hockey world, and not just because it's Stanley Cup final time. It's also kind of for everyone who's covering teams who aren't still playing hockey in the NHL. The off season is well underway, and the Combine. I kind of in the unofficial start of summer is for me when the NHL Combine comes around because it means that we're really starting to get serious about the draft and then looking into what comes after that, free agency, and then development camps and so on and so forth. And so we are very pleased today to be joined by someone who is very knowledgeable about all things hockey, especially prospects, and who was at this year's Combine in Buffalo. He is Mike Augello. He covers the Leafs and the Sabres, and he is the co-host of the Off the Post Radio podcast. He's also the chief commercial officer of Hockey Hot Stove, which we're going to talk about. That website might sound a little familiar to our regular listeners. We're going to talk about a little bit of that at the end of the show. But first off, let me just say, welcome back to the show, Michael Augello. It is great to have you back again.
It is always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So most of our listeners will be pretty familiar with the general format of the NHL Combine. It's held every year in Buffalo, at the Lecom Center, which is the practice facility that's right next to KeyBank Arena. And, beginning of the week is all of the kind of the interviews and that type of thing. Then you get into media availability with the prospects on Friday and Saturday. The physical testing is what everyone is kind of really watching for towards the end of the week. The NHL had 90 prospects on the invitation list this year. And so I guess, first off, since you were there in person and you got to take the whole thing in firsthand, can you just give us your overall or general impression of this year's Combine?
Well, it was, pretty much like all other combines, although there's a lot more sort of uncertainty in terms of this draft, in terms of where players are going to slot. I think everybody believes that Matthew Schaefer is going to be the top overall pick, but really there's a lot of fluctuation and flexibility from 2 all the way to the middle of the first round. But in terms of the setup, it's always the same. Media get access on Friday and Saturday. They provide us with the top 6 prospects on Friday. And then 7:00 in the morning on Saturday, they start with the workouts. And we'll bring the players up to talk to the media members from 7 all the way till say 1:30 or 2:00. There's sometimes a break for lunch, but really it's sort of scattershot. The NHL does a really good job, but these 18-year-olds, they're being grilled, and it's not like being interrogated. It's like, well, Montreal asked you what kind of animal you are. So what did you say? And things of that nature. But
Carter Bear had an easy answer.
Somebody said like
a bear.
Carter Bear should probably say.
Yeah.
But like somebody said like a hammerhead shark or something. They tried to be colorful, but it's like I don't know what you really get out of that. But when you ask these players how many teams they talk to, most of them are talking to 27, 28 teams. It's almost pointless to ask, because if you ask, well, did you talk to Toronto? Did you talk to Buffalo? It's almost, who didn't you talk to? That's probably the bit easier question.
Mm-hmm. So from the prospects, with respect to this class, if there is a theme at all, especially in the first round, it would have to be size. I would guess, just looking through the listing, if you take James Higgins out, otherwise it's a pretty big draft class. And is that indicative of what we're seeing in the playoffs and what works and the copycat league and all of that? Is this going to be a bigger than usual draft class?
Yeah, I've never felt more inadequate in my life. All these 6'4" kids, they're 18 years old, and I'm just like looking up at them. I was impressed by the overall size of the prospects. Now, I think we all know, size does not make quality hockey player.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. It's size, it's strength, and smarts and speed, and there's a lot of S's here. But a 5'10" player can be really good in this league, and there was a shortage. There were maybe 2 or 3, under 6 feet type players, but most of them were 6'2", 6'3". There was a couple 6'7s there. Yeah, size is definitely a focus in this draft, and a lot of players comparing themselves, if they're forwards, to Tom Wilson or Brady Tkachuk. Anton Frundell compared himself to Sasha Barkov, and the defenseman. We got a lot of Brandon Carlos and things of that nature. So everybody is talking about, and everybody seems to be focused a lot on size in this draft.
So if you now talk about the if there's any kind of similarities amongst on the team side, there seems to be, at least from what I'm getting, a lot more teams this season. The past few drafts, we haven't seen a lot of movement in the first round. In fact, one year there was no trades at all in the first round. There seems to be a lot of chatter this year about teams willing to part with their first round pick, looking for players who can play now. How did that affect the Combine? And with this decentralized draft coming up, is it going to be harder to make deals? And did some of that initial seed work get done at the Combine?
Yeah, a lot of, I know that, the insiders like, Pierre LeBrun and Elliot Friedman said that a lot of the trade chatter, a lot of the machinations about preparing for July 1st, a lot of talk happened at the Combine. And apparently Daniel Milstein, who represents most of the Russian players that are coming over to North America, he's like last year is holding his own sort of separate workout in Florida a week or so before the draft. So some of the teams, their officials will meet there prior to the draft. But the decentralized draft really is going to throw everything into. It's not tough to text message somebody or call somebody, but it's a lot easier to walk over to the Buffalo table and talk to Kevin Adams. Mm-hmm. So I think there is an advantage to being in the same place. And from the rumors that sort of were circulating the Combine, this may be a one and done in terms of the decentralized draft. There's a lot of talk that next year they're going to go to sort of a baseball winter meetings type of scenario where the NHL awards, the draft, and the beginning of free agency will all be in the same place. So for someone like myself who likes to go to the draft and loves everything to be centralized, that I will welcome that instead of being in the basement at Highmark Stadium where the Bills play, watching the draft on TV and waiting for Kevin Adams to come out and waiting for a Zoom call of whoever they take at number 9.
Well, I think fans and fans who like to go to the draft, and we know we've known a lot of them. I think they would appreciate that. There's something different about the NHL draft, and different even from other sports. It's an incredible event to attend for both journalists and fans, and it makes sense to put those all together in one spot, combined with, as you said, free agency. And just kind of retain that uniqueness that the NHL has. We'll see what happens this year, but let's hope, as you said, that this chatter changes this format back to what we're used to. The Canadiens themselves picking in the mid-teens is different for them this year, obviously. First time out of the top 5 for the current regime. 16 and 17 back-to-back. And they actually have 4 picks in the top 50 this year. Were you hearing anything about, with respect to the Canadiens, trying to make a move up? How far could they go? We hear that, it seems unthinkable, but Utah is rattling that their number 4 pick might be available. We see those kinds of things in the NFL with teams moving up, but it's kind of unheard of in the NHL. Can the Montreal Canadiens, you think, with the draft assets they have, move into the top 10?
I remember back to the 2015 draft in Sunrise when the Boston Bruins
they had back-to-back.
had 3 picks in the middle of the first round, right around where the Canadiens have their 2 picks. And the whole purpose, and I believe they had traded Martin Jones to get one of those picks. So they had like 14, 15, and 16. And their goal was to trade up into the top 5 to draft Noah Hannafin. And they couldn't do it. And Carolina ended up drafting Hannafin. I see the same problem here, even though a lot of people think there's a top 4 or 5 in this draft and then it drops off a little bit. I don't know. There's a lot of chatter, like you said. Well, San Jose and Chicago wants to trade up to 2. Well, why? I mean, it depends. If San Jose thinks they can draft who they want at 3 instead of 2, then are they going to risk it based on getting a second round pick or an additional first? I don't know. Both of those teams seem so far away that why would you not just stay where you are? Utah is making a lot of noise, but I get the feeling if Utah is trading out from 4, they're not going to trade down. They're going to trade out, and they're going to want to get a player because they want to make the playoffs. Ryan Smith wants to make big moves. He's supposedly going to be in on the Mitch Marner sweepstakes. So I can't exactly see them. They have so many draft picks over the next couple of years. I can't exactly see them trading down from 4 to say 16 and 17 as we're talking here. I see them trading out and trying to get a player who's a difference maker. Now, will that happen? There's a lot of smoke and sometimes there's fire, but I'm sort of, I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to this draft. There seems to be a general feeling that at a certain level, all these players are very similar, and every team has got their favorites, what certain traits of certain players. And, maybe you can move up a pick or 2, but I think everybody, it's going to be chalk. I think everybody's going to stay where they are. And for Montreal, picking in the middle of the first round, there are good players who could be there at 16 and 17. And I think, they talked to everybody. I mean, he asked about Montreal, and Montreal seemed to have talked to everybody. So whatever eventuality if they're going to try to trade up, if they're going to stay at 16 or 17, if they trade down and try to get more picks, I think they're prepared for every eventuality.
Well, you mentioned smoke. For Montreal, their strategy with respect to the draft seems equal parts of due diligence and subterfuge. They want to put out, you mentioned the prospects report that Montreal spoke to them. Radim Murtka said the Canadiens were the team who viewed him most, and the Canadiens should have absolutely no chance of drafting Radim Murtka. Carter Bear said the same thing, and maybe because of his injury he falls, but still that seems unlikely too. Wonder if you can talk a little bit about Brady Martin. I just like this kid's personality, and he seems to be a guy who is rising quickly. Comes from a farm, Elmira, Ontario, one of my favorite places. I went to school in the University of Waterloo. Elmira is gorgeous, Mennonite farming area. And this is a kid who said, listen, my early part of my career, I wasn't training at all. I was just tossing hay bales.
Right.
This guy sounds like he's got a lot of character, two-way center, physical, high compete. Sounds like the kind of player that Montreal would covet, but he's going to be gone long before then. But tell us your impressions of him.
I think the impression I got was when he was talking about being on the farm, and that I think he said he might not be able to go to the development camp because they would be, harvesting. So like
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, the family farm, they hire help, but they still need help, and that I mean, obviously his hockey career takes priority, but that him pitching in is definitely something that is on his calendar. Yeah, high character kid. I think the fact that he had 72 points last year. The Sioux is a program that obviously has some fans. Former Toronto GM, now Pittsburgh GM, Kyle Dubas has always loved players from the Sioux. So I know the Penguins select at 11. I would find it hard to believe that he gets by 11.
Yeah.
But all the talk, I mean, there's been chatter about him with Buffalo at 9. There's been chatter about him possibly even sneaking into the top 5 or maybe 6 to Philadelphia. Yeah, I think he's going in the top 10, but I think he's an excellent prospect, but he's somebody obviously that's probably maybe 2 or 3 years away from playing in the NHL.
In the range for the Canadiens, maybe a defenseman like Cam Reed, not the biggest lad, but from my Kitchener Rangers, and the lead skater, a guy from Moose Jaw like Lyndon Lakovic. Talk about them and any other guys that you think might be in that mid-teen kind of range.
Well, you're right about Mertka. I mean, the impression that I got, and I know that there are some mock drafts out there that Mertka going to Seattle at 8, which, is convenient because he plays for the Thunderbirds. So I think they're putting 2 and 2 together. I said I don't think he gets any further than Buffalo at 9 because Buffalo's defense is entirely left-handed, and he's a right-shot defenseman. And I can just imagine him in a couple years playing with Owen Power or Dahlin. I know that a lot of people, and I got this from our mutual friend Russ Cohen, that Mertka's offensive numbers in the WHL may not reflect what he's going to be at the NHL level. So he probably projects more as sort of a middle pairing guy. But the defensemen in this draft, I know I've seen Aitchison, Keishon Aitchison, who had a breakout year. I think it was 26 goals. He's got great offensive chops. I've seen him go anywhere from 9, or at least projected to go anywhere from 9 to the middle of the first round. So conceivably, Aitchison could be there. Jackson Smith is another defenseman who projects to be middle of the first round. These are all guys who, they have offensive abilities, and but I think these are all, not projects, but we know what it takes for a defenseman to make the NHL in his rookie year. It's not even a guarantee Schaefer plays for the Islanders this year. He could very well play for the Islanders. He could, go back and play another year. It just, there's no guarantee. So I think there are 3 or 4 defensemen who are projected, Aitchison being one, Smith being another, that could be in the middle of the first round where Montreal is selecting.
Let me ask you this, which is kind of a theoretical thing, and it's something that gets talked about, I think, more by it gets reported by media, but then I think social media and fans really pick up on it. And I think sometimes a lot of people wonder what the actual impact of it is. And that is the notorious who gets taken out to dinner by whom during the Combine. And the Canadiens made a whole lot of noise this year claiming that they weren't going to take out a single prospect for dinner this year. There have been years where they, took prospects out and then that's not who they went with, or they didn't take someone out and then ended up selecting them. Can you give us your insight and your feeling on why the Canadiens would broadcast that they're not taking anyone out for dinner this year? Why, is it a big deal if they don't? Is it a big deal for teams who do? And does it really affect anything?
It's probably to save money because, you're taking a lot of players to dinner. I'd like to know where they're taking these kids to dinner. I mean, are they taking them out for wings, or are they taking them to, for, I think one player said, did you get chicken wings? He says, no, I got steak. It's like,
or the salmon. Yeah.
I honestly think that the whole dinner thing is extremely overrated unless you're talking about at the top of the draft. I mean, Schaefer went out with the Islanders for dinner, and I think the only other player that they took out to dinner was Misa. But it's all sort of a blur because in terms of I was in on the availabilities on over 70 players, so and recorded a lot of the audio, and I'm just transcribing them as I go, and so many of them went out to dinner, and then reporters were asking, well, did this team take you out to dinner or that team take you out to dinner? I think it's overrated. I think the meeting, talking with the player, being asked questions, being put in certain scenarios. I know Pittsburgh with Dubas, they use sort of a video, montage where a player is about to make a move and they ask the player, okay, what do you do in this situation? And they predict what's going to happen or say what they think should happen. And then they show the rest of the video and see what happened. So, I mean, I guess they're plotting out their thought process or their on ice ability or whatever. So there's all different methods for all different teams, but I really think the whole dinner thing is overblown.
While we have you here, if we can look ahead to next year, because something happened in November of 2024, and that is since the last draft, the NCAA has lifted their ban on CHL players, and so we're going to start seeing players choosing an NCAA development path starting in this upcoming season, 2025-2026. And what do you think the effect is going to be on those two leagues, on the NHL scouting community, on perhaps the next draft, and who's this going to be an advantage for?
Well, it's going to be an advantage for the players, especially in the 2026 draft. I mean, when you have, Gavin McKenna potentially going to Penn State or Michigan State or wherever he ends up. I mean, it's an option for these players. I mean, McKenna doesn't really have much to prove after what the year that he had with Medicine Hat. I mean, he dominated the WHL. He made the Memorial Cup final. What more does he have to prove in the CHL? I mean, if he goes to a U.S. college and plays against bigger, stronger kids, I think that hones his skills, and he has a chance to he won't play as many games. He'll work on his physical, build himself up physically, and be a better prepared for the NHL after he gets drafted first overall, which everybody expects him to. But he's not the only one. I mean, I know that what was it? I think it was Brady Peddle, one of the prospects, was talking about, and I believe he's at Michigan or Michigan State. I apologize. But his older brother was drafted by Columbus, and this is a few years ago, and he did not sign. He played in the CHL. He did not sign after 2 years. And, with the NCAA, you have that 4-year window, and it enables you to develop further, and it gives you options, because after the senior year, if you don't sign with the team that drafted you, you're an unrestricted free agent and you can go anywhere. Now you're not locked into some of these 18-year-olds that are drafted in the CHL. They're there for 2 years, and then they have to go back into the draft. Mm-hmm. And if they don't get drafted, then they're a free agent. But there's a level of uncertainty, and I think it's going to have a dramatic effect on the NCAA. I mean, I know that a number of players talked about how the Big Ten is just going to be incredible this year. it's gonna skew the CHL, and this isn't my observation. I've heard this from other people. The CHL is going to be a lot younger.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going to be very incredibly viable. It's going to be profitable for those franchises. But there's going to be a change of the landscape, and then I personally, my thing, and we've seen this as observers of the American Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a player, and I'll use Toronto as an example, a player like Easton Cowan, if you had asked him before, not knowing whether you're going to win the Memorial Cup, I'm sure he's overjoyed that he stayed in London and won the Memorial Cup, but he won every award last year, went to the Memorial Cup, lost. He was not old enough to go to the Toronto Marlies. He had to have a birthday before December 31st, and he had to go back to London. And he had an okay year with the Knights, and then he turned it on in the playoffs, and then he won the Memorial Cup. But was that the best thing for him? Could he have gone to the Marlies as a 19-year-old, and would that have been better for him in terms of his development to be a future NHLer? I mean, I think there should be a one-player exemption, a waiver for 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds who, instead of going back to the CHL, they go to the American Hockey League so they can develop their skills better. But there's this agreement that if they're not turning 20, they got to go back to their junior team. And I think everything is out the window because those 18 and 19-year-olds now can go to the NCAA. Why can't they go to the American Hockey League?
Yeah, it's going to take a while for some of that to shake out, but we're probably going to have to see some harmonizing of those rules between the NCAA and CHL.
I think so.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this with something that we talked about at the top of the segment, and that is the fact that one of your titles is that you are now the new CCO, the Chief Commercial Officer of HockeyHotStove.com. And if you are a frequent listener here on the show, you will know that we very proudly announced just a handful of weeks ago that we are very proud to be part of the launch of this brand new website, which covers every team across the league. It's brought a whole heap of experienced professional hockey journalists together. It's headed up by former NHL defenseman and broadcaster Chris Terrian, yourself as the chief commercial officer, and our good friend Bill Meltzer, who does a lot of really great work with the Philadelphia Flyers as the chief operating officer. It features blogs, it features podcasts, it features fan forums. You want it, you need it. When it comes to hockey, you've got it at hockeyhotstove.com. So I was wondering, while we have you here, if you could just tell us a bit overall about the website, tell our listeners why it's the place to go for all of their hockey needs, and what the plans are for it, where it's going.
Well, we just launched on May the 1st, and the growth of the website's been very steady and very positive. We have over 4,000 subscribers in just over a month, which is incredible. And, Bill and I have been, writers in hockey circles Bill's been longer than me, but for me, it's been 15 years, starting at Hockey Buzz. We're bringing a lot of friends like yourself into the fold because, I think there is a need out there for sort of an interactive website. I mean, if you want to read columns, from people who know what they're talking about, this is a place to come. If you want to express your opinion in the forum where, people can post, and, make their ideas known about what these teams should do, or just venting about oh my god, I can't believe the Florida Panthers blew a 3-0 lead, and you can go there. We're going to be adding other aspects of the website as we roll out as the summer comes about. But we're talking about right now the time of year where people want to go someplace where they can read about and get a sort of a feedback of what's going on in the hockey world. And as you know, the draft coming up at the end of the month, then July 1st, a lot of rumors coming out. Now at this point, we don't have all 32 teams covered, but we're endeavoring to do so before the beginning of next year. So, we're starting out, but it's an exciting endeavor. We have a number of people like Ted Starkey from Newsday who has provided some columns, and we're going to be adding some other people, but it's exciting, and management is new to me, but I'm not going to stop writing about the Toronto Maple Leafs and venting my spleen about, the exodus of Mitch Marner and, where he's going to go. And well, I know where I think he should go, but I'm not going to say it publicly. But yeah, it's an exciting endeavor, and we're really enjoying it, and it seems to be going very well to start.
Well, we are, as I said, very proud to be invited to be part of the launch of this new endeavor. We always talk about how no matter what comes up in the world of hockey, if you're working with good people, then it's going to be a good experience. And we know that all of you in the leadership and founders of hockeyhotstove.com are some of the best people in hockey. And so we are really honored to be with you and proud to be part of things. Don't forget, just bookmark it now. It's the only place you're going to need to go all summer long and for next season as well. Hockeyhotstove.com will be providing the Montreal Canadiens coverage here at Rocket Sports. Myself, Rick Stevens, Chris G. But if you want to check in on all of those other teams, then you're going to want to visit there as well. And as Michael said, get in on the fan forums as well, because those really, there's some very fun conversations and debates that happen in those forums for sure. Well, Mr. Algello, we thank you so much. You always come with a wealth of knowledge. We appreciate your opinions and analysis and perspective of the Combine once again. And let's have you back on the show again soon.
Anytime.
And if you do not follow him on X already, be sure to follow Michael Algello at Mike in Buffalo. And we will see you again soon.
Thanks, Mike. That was terrific. Always good to talk. A good friend, great resource. And now we're working with him once again. With Hockey Hot Stove, and glad to be part of that affiliation. Good crew there. Part of the Combine is always the Canadiens are famous for their questions. Their questions.
I believe that they're starting to be infamous for their questions.
It was a Pittsburgh based reporter who tweeted out, Montreal, this is a quote from her name is Taylor Haas, Montreal, as always, has the most unhinged questions. This week they're asking if players were stranded on a desert island with someone with only a bottle of water and a baseball bat, and you can't share the water, and the other person takes the water first, what do you do with the bat? Apparently Caleb Denoyer said he'd hit a home run. And Taylor says she's not sure if that's a good answer or not.
Yeah, what did they want him to say? I'm going to beat the other guy to get the bottle of water. Like,
the other usual question from the Canadiens is, this is Taylor going on, is what animal they'd like to be. And Jackson Smith, he's a defenseman from Tri-City. He said he'd like to be a mix between a mammoth and a goldfish. And if you go on X, aided by AI, you can see what a combination of a mammoth and a goldfish looks like. I'm sure that was helpful to the Montreal Canadiens as they make their decisions. Also, other questions. Here's another question that apparently the Canadiens, and I'm assuming via Dr. David Scott, asked. You see a $100 bill in a trash can surrounded by dirt and $20 bill on a nearby park bench. Which one would you take? Okay.
All right.
You run into Nick Suzuki, and this is another question apparently that was asked. You run into Nick Suzuki at a casino at 3 a.m. and Marty St. Louis confronts you and says, have you seen the captain? What do you do? And this one, I hate this question, and it was asked of David Reinbacher, which was terribly inappropriate. World War II, you're the captain of a naval ship. Would you send a torpedo to down a enemy submarine that would result in the death of 20 of your crew as collateral damage, or do you just try to rescue them and then you lose everybody? Anyways, these questions
so inappropriate.
Yeah. Yep.
Could they stop doing this?
Yeah. So the Combine and the Canadiens' due diligence in interviewing a lot of prospects.
I can say
at the scouting Combine
with certainty, as you all just heard, Michael Augello's report about the Combine way better than the Canadiens' interview questions.
Yes. Thanks, Mike. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Definitely. Should mention that all is not sad news for the Laval Rocket, who we reported last week, of course, found themselves in an early exit from the Eastern Conference Finals. But this week, the American Hockey League announced this year's AHL top prospects team. And one of the two defensemen who made the top prospects team for the AHL this year was none other than Logan Mailloux. So congratulations to Logan Mailloux.
This is a big deal. This is a
very
really
big
deal.
Yeah.
Logan Mailloux had a sensational season. As Pascal Vincent said at the beginning of the playoffs, was playing the best hockey of his pro career. And how was this determined? The top prospects team. It was AHL general managers combined with the league's operations staff. They combined to select 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 1 goaltender. And the criteria is who are the prospects projected to be the best future NHL players. And Logan Mailloux was one of those 2 defensemen. So
out of the whole league.
Yeah.
So that's a really big deal.
Tremendous. Congratulations, Logan. I know, that I see a lot of on social media fans. Oh, and I'll toss in Logan Mailloux as part of my trade proposal. Oh, well, Logan Mailloux is not a toss in, and let's hope he's a big part of the Canadiens' future.
Definitely. We go from great news there to even better news in the ECHL for the Trois-Rivières Lions. Kelly Cup final is in the books for 2025, and the Canadiens' ECHL affiliate, the Trois-Rivières Lions, are champions of that league. Lifted the Kelly Cup in a 4-1 series victory over the Toledo Walleye, who are the ECHL affiliate of the Detroit Red Wings. This is an absolutely phenomenal achievement for this team. They're not an old franchise. They have not been around that long. And to win the Kelly Cup, just an absolute wonderful achievement, and a huge congratulations to them.
A really big deal that an affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, their ECHL affiliate, has won the championship in the ECHL. And as Chris G., our Rocket Sports correspondent who covers the ECHL for us, pointed out, in a very short time, they are a franchise that went from almost being disbanded. Remember, the Newfoundland Growlers were owned by the same group, Deacon Sports, and both were kind of up for sale and in financial trouble. Didn't find a buyer for the Growlers. They're out of the league, but the Trois-Rivières group, the Lions, were saved, and in a short period of time are champions of the ECHL, and congratulations to the players, coaching staff, and everyone there.
Definitely. And congratulations for the fans,
yes,
who packed Colisée Videotron to play for that final game, Game 5, sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Sold out crowd at Colisée Videotron, and that sure helped to lift the Trois-Rivières Lions to championship clinching victory. They beat Toledo in that game, by the way, 4-1. So they really wanted that cup.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of wanting the cup, Edmonton's not going away. Florida and Edmonton tied 2-2. It's a brand new series. It's a best of 3 series now. And so the Stanley Cup final continues to add more drama and intrigue. It's been quite a series so far.
Speaking of drama, Game 4, the cameras could not stay off Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, who were in their private box. And joined by Wayne Gretzky. Had Wayne on the TNT panel and came down and sat with him for a bit. Of course, Wayne, it was actually pretty enjoyable. He was on the podcast with the Kelce brothers a couple weeks ago. Did a good job there.
Some trades are starting to happen. New York Rangers have traded Chris Kreider and a 4th round pick. And this required Kreider to waive part of his no trade list because he acquiesced and said, okay, fine, I will go to the Anaheim Ducks. And so the Rangers, in return for Chris Kreider and a 4th rounder, get Carey Terrence and a 3rd rounder.
Yeah, good opportunity for him. The Rangers are trying to change up the team, change the direction, change the culture, make big changes. A solid piece of the puzzle for the last few years, and a leader in a lot of categories is Chris Kreider. He goes off to Anaheim, and where he'll join guys that he knows, Jacob Trouba and others. I think it's good for both sides. Of course, whenever Chris Kreider is mentioned, it just my body gets tense and remember the opportunity that the Canadiens had to pick Chris Kreider and what a different situation it would have been for him to be contributing and also not to have targeted Carey Price and that whole scenario. Instead, the owner inserting himself, that is the Canadiens owner, to select the hometown hero in Louis LeBlanc, who just didn't go anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think the writing was on the wall for this, but confirmation is here now, basically, because on Friday, Andy Strickland reported that Toronto forward Mitch Marner will not return to the Maple Leafs next season.
Andy Strickland, pretty good reporter, and he said that it was confirmed to him that Marner won't be returning to the Leafs. So let the speculation.
Oh boy.
Well, not let the speculation is already rampant about where he's going to go.
Yeah, let it heat up even further now.
Exactly.
Piece of good news on a former Montreal Canadien prospect who we had the pleasure of covering for a few years and was always a delight to talk to and watch on his journey. Former Montreal Canadiens goaltender Zach Fucale, you remember that name? Well, he has signed a 2-year contract with Dynamo Minsk in the KHL. That's, congratulations to him for that. But Rick, there's something that makes it even more significant.
Well, this new deal, and we should say he's Zach Fucale. He's 30 years old. It hardly
Thank
seems
you. I feel
possible.
old now.
He's played for Tractor for the past 2 seasons, now moving to Dynamo. And this new contract will make Zach Fucale the highest paid goaltender in the KHL. No small feat. Congratulations to Zach. Zach's a very good guy. And he was a good soldier with the Canadiens organization when he was a prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Went on to Hershey.
Won the Calder Cup with Hershey.
Won the Calder, and he won a Memorial Cup. He's and his
Spengler Cup.
Spengler Cup he was involved in. And then went to the KHL after his stint with Hershey. So congratulations to him.
Absolutely. Really, really happy for him. And he's going to be joined by a former teammate of his, because Dynamo also has signed 31-year-old defenseman Darren Dietz to a 1-year contract. You remember that name. Dietz and Foucault. So Dietz's last, I actually just looked this up this morning. Dietz's last year in the Canadiens organization was 2015-16 with St. John's Ice Caps, after he had played a couple of years in Hamilton for the organization. But that was Zach Foucal's rookie season as well. So the two of them played in Zach's rookie season together on the same team, and now they're reunited.
And not just, Darren Dietz was not just an AHLer. He played 13 games with the Montreal Canadiens. In those 13 games, a goal and assist for 5 points. Not too bad for a young guy. And then he went on to the KHL, and it was and has been very productive.
Yeah.
In fact, a couple of 1 or 2 seasons he led the KHL in scoring by defensemen. So another he's another good guy.
Good guy, yeah.
He was drafted by the Canadiens in the 5th round of the 2011 draft. Rangy kind of guy, plays with an edge, good shot, skates well. This is kind of an episode of Where Are They Now?
Yeah.
That we used to do all the time. We have Foucault and Darren Dietz.
Wonderful. Congratulations to both of them, and I hope they have a great season ahead with Dynamo Minsk. From a former defenseman to a current defenseman, the secret is out. Montreal Canadiens defenseman Lane Hutson was announced as the recipient of the Calder Memorial Trophy, by and far the clear-cut winner without a shadow of a doubt.
No disrespect to Macklin Celebrini,
No.
Dustin Wolf, but Lane Hutson was either first or second on all the ballots, and of course he had a sensational season for the Canadiens, and set franchise records for goals and points and assists by a Canadiens defenseman in his first season. He is the first Habs player. This is hard to believe. The first Habs player to win the Calder since Ken Dryden in 1972. And then really nice, the Canadiens got Ken to put out a video congratulating him, and it was typical Ken Dryden style. They said you couldn't do it. They said the team couldn't do it until you did, and tremendous. I thought it was all very well done, and good job on Lane Hutson on keeping the secret. At the press conference, he said that he had found out about 10 days prior, and they did the little ceremony, and the ceremony was a big surprise to him. He was, apparently, his dad told him he was attending a fundraiser. And he was presented with the trophy. So great all around. Congratulations to Lane Hutson.
But the good news for Hutson doesn't even stop there, because on Thursday he was named to this year's NHL All-Rookie team.
Again, big deal.
Yeah.
You look at the All-Rookie team: Macklin Celebrini, Dustin Wolf, who I mentioned before, also Cutter Gauthier, Matvei Michkov, Denton McTaychuk, and Lane Hutson. That's a terrific all-rookie team for 2024-2025. And just of note, we know that the Norris Trophy was won by Cale Makar, but Hutson came in his first year, came 9th in the voting for the Norris. That's pretty special. And of course, all the awards have been kind of not leaked out, but put out by the NHL throughout the playoffs. And then this past week they had a bit of a compilation show, and where some of the awards were revealed for the first time. Connor Hellebuck winning the Vezina and the Hart. And others. So the real big honor for Lane Hutson.
And he did a Zoom call for his media availability after the winning of the Calder Memorial Trophy announcement was made. And here's what he talked about when he was asked, what gave you the opportunity to win the Calder?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts, from the top of, Kent, Gortz, Marty to, all my teammates. They, the greatest support staff I had, and just, letting me be comfortable and letting me learn on my own and helping me when they needed to. So just, what they did for me, it's pretty awesome. And, that's how it was all year.
So he's very grateful, and was sure to talk about the entire organization that helped him in his first year, giving him help and direction when it was needed, and giving him space to learn some things on his own. So thanking everyone in the organization, and he also took the opportunity to thank his family. He said that, his mom was a big help. His mom lived with him in Montreal this past year. He said that it was very helpful to have her around, not only to do the cooking and laundry and those kinds of things, but to have a person to talk to. And he's already told his mom that she can come back next season.
Yeah, I'm sure she can. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, congratulations to Lane Hudson. And very fun for him. Very great end to a terrific rookie season for him. We are going to take our first break here on the show. But when we come back, our second exclusive interview of the week is on tap. We have a scouting director who is here to evaluate the first round and the top prospects available in this year's NHL Draft, and talk about the targets that the Montreal Canadiens can have their sights set on with those picks in the first round. You are not going to want to miss that. So stay with us. You are listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
The NBA Finals are finally here, and this is your last shot to win some real cash before the season ends. The simplest way to get in on the action? Downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for two or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Nail your picks and you're heating up. Pick 6 brings upside with payouts up to 500 times. Ready to make your finals run? New DraftKings Pick 6 customers can toss in just $5 on your first entry, and you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code THPN. That's code THPN. New customers play $5, get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Ride the upside only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio. Once again, my name is Amy Johnson. If you would like to follow me on X, you can do so. My handle there is @FlyersRule. And of course, I'm joined in the studio by my co-host, who is also our president and founder of Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. Be sure you are definitely following him on X. That handle is @RocketSports. Not only is it his X account, but it is also our main account for everything we do here at Rocket Sports. So if it's content that we're putting out, it's going to be on that account. If it's news or updates about the Canadiens or their prospects, it's going to be found on that account. So be sure you're following there as well. Take a moment, if you will, to subscribe to the podcast or our YouTube channel, however you are consuming this week's episode, if you haven't done so already, because, you've already enjoyed one exclusive interview today. You're about to get another one, and there will be more coming this summer as we continue our extensive coverage of the Montreal Canadiens during the off season, not just during the NHL season. So hit subscribe, hit the like button, and share this episode with your social media followers as well. We would greatly appreciate that. All right. We have teased it. It is finally here. Longtime friend and colleague and frequent guest on the show, Jerome Berube. He's the director of scouting for Hockey Prospect. If you're not familiar, many of you will be, but if you're not familiar, Hockey Prospect is an independent scouting service that provides player evaluations to NHL and CHL teams. They scout just about everyone in junior and so forth, and they give a lot of information to NHL teams and CHL teams. And so this month, Hockey Prospect has published their NHL Draft breakdown. It's a digital book that contains really extensive scouting profiles, grades on the prospects, draft rankings, you name it. It's a comprehensive resource for all things prospects and the draft. And so Rick and I were very pleased to once again be joined by Jerome this year to get his take on the first rounders who are potentially projected to go in those first 32 picks, and talk a little bit about who the Canadiens might be targeting. It might be hard to believe that the draft really is kind of just around the corner. And so it is really time for us to start digging deep into what the Montreal Canadiens could do, might do, who's available, who's out there, who's in this draft class. What is this draft class all about? And every year, as we always do, one of the premier experts that we bring onto the show is our dear friend, Jerome Berube. He is the director of scouting at hockeyprospect.com. He has a wealth of knowledge about all things prospects. And Jerome, we are always glad to have you back on the show.
Hey, thank you, and thanks for having me on.
Well, we couldn't kick off really, draft coverage without having you here. And so I guess first off, let's just talk about kind of the overall impression. Everyone always, going into each year's draft, there's always kind of the buzzwords that surround each individual draft class, or, if there's a theme to the draft class, or just overall impressions. So the 2025 draft class, what's the overall quality of the 2025 draft class, standing on its own or even in comparison to recent draft classes?
Yeah, I would say it's an average draft. It could be a really bad draft, but there's always good player in any draft. Even 1999 supposed to be the worst draft of all time. You still had 3 Hall of Famer coming out of that draft. So obviously, I don't hate the depth of the draft this year. It's just like the top. If you let's say you compare to the 2023 draft, where the top of the class was awesome. Not as much this year. So that's a bit of the I guess my take on this year's draft is the top end of the draft is not awesome. It's not awesome. Our number one ranked guy, Matthew Schaefer, played 17 games this year. So so yeah. I feel like a lot of prospect, even guys ranked in the top 10, there's a lot of like what if situation with them. Frondell, can he put everything together to become that, that play driver that we want him to be? Martin, like he really had, if you look at his stats, he had a good season, but the truth is, like, he didn't really have a good season because he didn't really play, really hard all year. Like he was a passenger too much. But then he did respond with like a really strong playoff in the first round. So a lot of guys that have like, a question mark next to their name because there's something we don't like. There are some guys who are one skill away to be really, really good, but we're wondering about that. Other guys that have injury concern, like Carter Bear, Roger McQueen, other guys like Lyndon Lakovic, who has all the tools. Like he's big, he's fast, he can really pass the puck. He's got a good shot. Should use it more often. But there's a huge question mark next to his name because does he compete hard enough? Like, so there's a ton of guys like this in this draft that are kind of like I said, like one skill away from being really good, or at least to be for scouts, they're one skill away from being. I feel like as a scout, you want to feel as safe as possible with a player. Like you don't want to question yourself, like, oh, is he gonna figure that out, or so there's a lot of guys like that this year that are a bit risque as far as like projecting them and so yeah, that's a bit my take on this draft class, and maybe goalie wise, maybe a step down this year goalie wise. Some interesting guy, but the last 2 years were a fantastic year for goalies. This year, I feel like it's decent. I like the top 3 goalie that we have ranked, and then the rest is a lot of a bit, I would say, question mark next to their names.
Well, mentioning goalies and quality of drafts, the 2012 draft is a draft that a lot of people criticize and say there's, not a lot of talent there, but some of the best goaltenders currently in the National Hockey League came out of the 2012 draft, including Connor Hellebuyck. So the point that just reinforces the point that you were making is that even if this is considered an average draft depth-wise or talent-wise, there's always talent. There's always potential NHL talent, and there's going to be some stars that are born out of this draft. Something that Canadiens fans pay particular attention to is homegrown talent, and so I wonder if we can just, before we look at maybe some potential picks for the Canadiens at the 16-17 slot, if we can look at your best prospects coming from the province of Quebec.
Yeah, so it's an interesting year. I think a lot of people during the year said, "Oh, it's a great draft for the Q," and it's like, well, after the after the top 3 guys from the Q, it kind of falls, big time. So we can start with Caleb Desnoyers, who should be a top 10 pick, maybe top 5 pick. So he's a smart two-way center. I think any coach will really love coaching him. He's smart, great attention to details. He competes hard. I project him as a center, but he played, I would say, 70% of the season on the wing because he had a hand or wrist injury, so it was a bit tougher for him to take face-off full time. But he was still 60% plus in the face-off circle, so I don't have any issue with him as a center. So he's a pretty safe bet to be a number 2 center in the NHL. I don't see the first line upside with him. And to be fair, there's not many guys that I project as first line player in the NHL. I mean, when I say project, I say, okay, you're playing on a good team that is Stanley Cup contending. Like, you could be a number 1 center on, the worst team in the NHL. It doesn't, yeah. Nobody cares, basically. So yeah, Denoyer, I like him, but I think some of the talk in the French media is a bit they're overhyping him a bit, but he still remains a guy that will go top 5, top 7, I would say, in this draft. But I don't see, a 80, 90 point guy here. I see more of a 50, 60 point guy in the NHL. After him, Justin Carbonneau. So he's like the exact opposite of Denoyer. Well, Denoyer is not very dynamic offensively. He's just very smart. He knows how to play the game. He's poised. Carbonneau instead is very dynamic with his shot, with his hands. He's one of the best goal scorer from this class. The problem with him is that he plays a very me, myself, and I type of game on the ice.
Okay.
He's so, and he's not a very smart hockey player. So we values his hockey sense as below average. So sometimes that can cause problem when, like, it's junior hockey. It's easy for him. But I've seen guys like him in the past that scored a lot of goals, but they're not like the best playmaker. They don't make their teammates better. To me, like, to continue to progress at the pro level, you really need like that hockey sense. So like, he's capable of making like really good pass, but he's not very efficient at it. Like, you might make one great pass, and then you have to wait like many games to see another like high hand pass from him. Like I said, he's a bit selfish on the ice, so which has good and bad. The good part is that he's never afraid to put the puck on net, which is
That's good. Yeah.
a good thing. But you would like to see him like use his teammate better and play a more team game. Also, defensively, away from the puck, it was a work in progress at the start of the year, and we didn't really see, much improvement there. So it's a bit of a nightmare away from the puck. So I thought I would see like some improvement, because I like the coach that he has, but he doesn't seem very into it to play away from the puck, and that makes him more of a one-dimensional scorer. He can play a physical game when he wants to, but there's a lot of inconsistency with his physical game. So yeah, I don't know. Carbonneau, like, of all the player in round 1, he's probably one of the biggest boom bust type prospect that you have. So if you draft him, like, you might hit the jackpot and he scores 35 goals for you in the NHL, or maybe by age 25 he's playing in Switzerland. So I'm saying this because I was thinking about Jake Virtanen. So Virtanen scored like 40 plus goal in his draft year. He was actually like younger than Carbonneau. Carbonneau is a late birthday, so Virtanen really didn't have much hockey sense going for him, and now he's playing in Europe. So I say him, but it could be plenty of other players that were that similar profile, that they get to a point at the pro level when they're 25, 26. They just don't have the hockey sense to perform like they did in junior. So, and the third player from the queue is Bill Zonon, center / winger from Wenaranda. He's a smart player. I like his vision, his playmaking skills. He's got good size. I wish he played a more mean physical game. Um, but I like him. I don't think he's gonna score a lot of goals at the NHL level. Like I don't. His shot is pretty average. He doesn't have bad hands, but I think if he plays, he's probably gonna be a third line winger or center, but most likely a winger because the skating is a bit it's a bit average. So those are the top three guys from the queue, and after that, it drops. So you can have a guy like Alex Wong from Chicoutimi. He's a smaller defenseman who skates well, good first pass, but he's really smaller. Like he's 6 feet, but he's about 165 pounds. His frame tells me that it's going to be a bit hard for him to gain like 20, 25 pounds. So, and he's also not a dominant player offensively or defensively. So it's kind of like, where does he fit in all that? Like, how does he find a role at the NHL level? And then after that, there's a bunch of late pick that I could name, like Alexis Mathieu, Will Reynolds. Those are a pair of 6'3" defensemen. One has some skill. The other one is just that would be Reynolds, and Mathieu is more of a really physical, nasty player with not much, puck skills or upside offensively. Maybe I'll finish with the goalies from the queue. Actually, we have some goalies from the queue this year, which has not happened
In a while,
for a few years. Like actual goalie that we like. But a lot of them are for us, like our not top two ranked goalie from the queue are like late bloomer. One is Alexis Cournoyer from Cape Breton. Never played in the queue before this year. He's 19 years old, very late bloomer. But when he played this year, he was dominant. He's going to Cornell next season, I believe, or the year after. But he has committed to Cornell University. He's like 6'3", 6'4". The only thing we worry about him is that we wish we saw him play more. And the other one is Louis-Antoine Deneau from the Quebec Rampart. Never drafted in the queue. He's 6'8".
Wow.
Whoa.
Very interesting. I didn't think he was going to be a draft at the start of the year, but the more the season progressed, the more I was like, maybe he actually gets drafted. And he was actually really good in the first round of the Q playoff against Moncton. So he's obviously 6'8". My first reaction of him, he reminded me of the Flyers Russian goalie. The name escaped me.
Fedotov, yeah.
Yeah, and Fedotov's biggest issue is, other than not stopping pucks, is the skating. Yeah, so the skating for Deneau was scaring me a bit. Like usually, I was like, maybe it's not good enough. But the more I saw in the second half and the playoff, the more I feel a bit more confident. I do worry that he's too tall, which is there's not many 6'8" goalie in the NHL. So that's a bit my concern with him. Like taller goalie like him, Fedotov. I remember Sebastian Casa, who went with Detroit in the first round, who was 6'7". Sometimes their 5'0" can get exposed because they're so tall. But I don't know. I think this kid made some pretty good progress in the second half. Great work ethic. Doesn't quit on puck. It's not the best style of goalie, but he gets the job done. So I think the goalies in the queue have made it somewhat interesting in this interesting class because the forward or defenseman, other than the top three or more, or nothing is really, I don't think any of those guys after the top three will be, top three, maybe even top four round type of picks. So they're more like mid or late round picks for the draft.
So we're going to get to the Canadiens' potentials in the first round in a second. But just while you parked on the Q goalies for a minute, let me ask you a quick question about another fair-sized goalie, Joshua Ravensburg, I think he's 6'5". Is he going to get selected is somebody going to take a chance on him in the first round?
I would think so. Probably more late in the first. We kind of predicted that maybe Nashville, I think they have the 25th pick, if I'm not mistaken. But we kind of view Nashville as an option for him, since Saros is not getting any younger. They traded Askarov,
Yeah.
so it might be an option here. And I think the top three goalies that we have are him and the two Russian, Andreyanov and Frolov, but with no live viewings for those goalies for 99% of the NHL scouts, I have a feeling that they will not go in the first round. So if a goalie goes in the first round, I would think it would be Ravensburg.
Okay.
But I think if a team needs a goalie, I think they would probably look at him. I don't think he had a great season. I think he was better last year than he was this year.
Yeah.
But he does have all the tools to be, a really good number one goalie. It was not, a great season for him. A lot of times that I saw him, he was giving up bad goals, but he does have all the makeup to be a good goalie. It was just not a great season by him.
So you mentioned the two prospects from the queue that are likely to go in the first round. Caleb Denoyer is you said top 5, top 7 kind of picks, so that's not in the Canadiens' range. And then Carbonneau is at the other end. He's probably going to go towards the end of the first round. So if those two are not on the card for the Canadiens, who are some possibilities at 16 and 17 if the Canadiens don't package them or don't trade them? If they actually make the picks, who might be under consideration in that mid-teen kind of area?
Yeah, I mean, I think Carbonneau will be in a discussion. I don't know what they think of him. I mean, if they're like us, probably not an option. But
okay,
I'm sure a lot of teams have him as a top 20 pick. So
maybe
an option for
maybe an option for the Canadiens, given that they have back-to-back picks, and you said Carbonneau might be one of those guys you take a flyer on. So if you're wanting a risky pick, not a safe pick, Carbonneau might be somebody at 17 or thereabouts.
Yeah. So with Carbonneau, I think could be an option, but I don't know if he fits what the Canadiens want, but we'll see. Other candidate, I think if I was director of scouting of the Canadiens, I would pray.
Which you should be.
Yeah. I would pray that a guy like Carter Bear falls.
Yeah.
To them. He's probably my favorite prospect in the whole draft. Not the best, but the guy I really enjoy watching, and it's just it's hard to find guys like him. Brady Martin is in that same boat, but Brady Martin is gonna go in the same range as Denoyer, top 5, top 7. So
Brady Martin is just an interesting guy, coming from a farm and just his attitude and his work ethic and all of that. He's a fascinating prospect.
Yeah, I think he, like his interview process at the combine was very good. Very, very, very easy guy to like when you watch him, but when you actually, see his interviews, and he's very confident in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, he's a very easy guy to cheer for, because he does play a game that is very unique. Not many guys play like him. And the same thing for Carter Bear. Great story. Never was a top prospect. He's a late pick in the WHL draft. Didn't play at 16 in the league. Played last year as a 17, but he's a late birthday, so came back this year. Had a fantastic start to the year. Then second half he was still good, but his production kind of like dropped, and then he got hurt, so missed the playoff. Pretty big injury. So that's the major question for me, because if not for that injury, like, he's a lock top 10 pick for me.
Mm-hmm.
We did drop him at number 10, and it kind of broke my heart because I wanted him at 8, but just because of the injury and the unknown, and we couldn't get any real solid info on his injury because they just don't know at this point. It's been too soon. But one thing we've learned that it's not as bad as it was for Peyton Krebs back in 2019.
Okay.
And Krebs was viewed as a top 10 pick, dropped to 17. So we'll see. I think he'd be a great fit for Montreal. It's exactly what they need. Other than that, so it's a tough. The mid first round is it's a tough one because there's not many players that really fit what Montreal needs. I mean, I believe they need to get bigger and meaner. So those guys don't. There's not many of those guys.
Yeah.
And I like Cole Reshny, but he's a 5'10" center. Does he fit what the Canadiens really want? Probably not. And he's a 5'10" skater. He's a 5'10" center with average skating. Those guys are those guys. There's not many of those guys really successful in the NHL. But I think he's going to be fine. But does he really fit what the Canadiens need? I don't know.
Lyndon Lakovic's got the size, but does he have the compete level that the Canadiens are looking for?
Yeah, that's his main problem. Like, he had four penalty minutes this year, and 2 of them were for playing with a broken stick. So, yeah, if Lakovic was a high compete guy, physical guy, it's not even a question that he goes top 10. But he does not really compete hard. So usually players, they don't change. Like, it's you have it or you don't. But it does happen sometime. But that's why Lakovic is rank 18 on our list and not 8. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. A guy from the Q that was super talented at the skating, and he's one of those guys that actually like changed his style at the pro level. It's Zachary Bolduc of the Blues. He was a 50-goal guy in junior. Like, everything was easy for him, and his coaching staff with the Rampart was like, you need to play physical, you need to compete harder, and he would do it for a few shifts for a few games. Then he would go back to being a bit too soft, too passive. But he was too talented. He had too much talent. It didn't matter. He was still getting his goals and his points. So usually kids, they don't listen. If they're successful playing one way, they're not going to listen. It's like, your coach is telling you to play more physical, and you're like, I scored 2 goals last night. Like,
Well, that was a Cole
so
Caulfield. Cole Caulfield didn't have the best defensive play, but he could score in college, even leading up to him coming to Montreal.
mhm. Yeah. So in the case of Balduc, like he got to the pro, and then he's like, oh, there's a lot of good players here. So he started playing a more gritty, more physical game, and then he was one of the leaders in hits this year with for rookies in the NHL. And I was watching him in the playoff, and I'm like, I doesn't look like the same player I watched in junior, So it does happen sometime, but more like I would say 95% of the time, if you're not mean, if you're not a hard player to play against in junior, you're just not going to be one at the NHL level. So Lakovic, maybe the bet is that he will change. But like we saw in Montreal with Latendresse, it was never in him. Benoit Pouliot was never in him. Kirby Dak, it's not in him. So it is what it is. Like, a lot of guys they're 6'3", 6'4", but they're just not like this high compete player that you need to be at the NHL level. So it's the danger of scouting. it's a difficult process, and sometimes you just don't know. So some guys are easy, like Carter Bear. You don't even ask yourself, like, is he gonna show up tonight? Is he? He's showing up for every single shift on the ice. Brady Martin, same thing. And then you have Lakovic, that you do have to ask yourself, like, is he gonna play hard tonight, or is just one of those games where he's gonna coast and he's gonna play on the outside and not go inside. So that's all questions that NHL staff need to ask themselves if they're willing to make a pick or not.
Now you got a guy like Cam Reed, who is said to be very competitive, but do the Canadiens need another average-sized left-handed defenseman? Even though he plays for my favorite Kitchener Rangers, and he brought a note to the interview he had with the Canadiens and read it in French, saying, "I'd be honored to play for the Montreal Canadiens." It would be better if he had memorized it, but he read the note nicely, I think. What do you think about Cam Reed?
I feel like we are on the highland on this player, because he's ranked top, I would say 20 pretty much everywhere, and we don't have him in the first round. So
Okay.
I think of him as well, okay, first of all, he's one of the best skater in the whole draft. He can really skate. We just don't think his defense or offense is anything special. And he's a undersized defenseman, 5'11", 6 feet. So we wish maybe the offense was better, more impactful. So he's one of those guys, again, that it's tough to, like, what is he gonna be at the NHL level? Like, is he a power play guy? And we don't think he is. At least not a first power play guy. Is he defensively? Can he play against top line? And we don't think he is. We think he's more of a third pairing, really quick, really good skater that can move pucks, good first pass, can skate with the puck. And that's a bit, we don't think he's gonna put a lot of points on the board at the NHL level, and defensively, I think it should be fine to at least be a NHL player. We don't think he's like terrible defensively, but there's can he be a shutdown defenseman at the NHL level? We don't think so. he's kind of like at the start of the year, I was watching him, and then I was like, wow, he does remind me a lot of Jordan Harris in the
Oh, wow.
sense of like,
Okay.
he's about 5'11", 6 feet, really good skater, good first pass, can skate with the puck, but doesn't do a whole lot in the O zone. And defensively, like, he's going to try hard like Jordan does. And, you appreciate Jordan Harris for that, but there's some limitation here. But having said that, I didn't expect Jordan Harris to have the tough year that he had in Columbus when I made that comparison. So, but yeah, we don't see Reed as a top 4 D at the NHL level. More as a third pairing defenseman. And if you have Lane Hudson on your team already, like, do you really need another 6 feet 5'11" defenseman? And I even questioned the Alexandre Carrier trade when it happened. I'm like, it's fine for the regular season, but it might be a problem in the playoff, and it was kind of a problem in the playoffs.
That's right.
So yeah. So I mean, I don't see how you can have Lane Hudson, Alexandre Carrier, and Cameron Reed on your 3 of your 6 defensemen. That's a bit too much for me. But everyone has their own philosophy how to build their team and their defense. But I would clearly have Hudson as my only smaller defenseman because he's pretty special, and then just surround him with bigger guy like Goulet, Ryan Backer, guys like that. So.
Well, you mentioned Lane Hudson. Lane Hudson recently announced as the Calder Trophy winner, Rookie of the Year this year, against some pretty tough competition in Macklin Celebrini and Dustin Wolf. But projecting ahead to the 2026 Rookie of the Year, the 2026 Calder, I was struck by a tweet that you put out in April, and you put out quite a list of potential Calder candidates for 2025, 2026. You included in there 2 Canadians in Ivan Demidov and David Reinbacher, assuming he makes the jump. But just give us kind of a preview of what the Calder race looks like for next year.
Okay, well, I don't really remember all the names that I put on the tweet, but you look at Ivan Demidov, you look at Ziv Bume coming out of Denver, Ryan Leonard,
you have Zane Perek.
Zane Perek.
Lev Shunov.
Sam Rinzel in Chicago, who I really like. I think he's probably better than Lev Shunov. Gabe Perreault, I don't know what the Rangers are doing, to be honest, but he might be an option too. And I'm sure I'm forgetting guys, but I just thought this was like, there's a lot of really good candidate, and who knows, like, does Matthew Schaefer plays full time, Michael Misa. So there's a lot of option for Rookie of the Year. I think Demidov probably is the favorite at this point, but I think it's going to be a really, really solid rookie class next year with those guys. But I think the main guys are probably going to be Demidov, Leonard, Bume, and
Sandy Pellica.
Oh, I forgot Jimmy Snuggerud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
There's a lot. There is a lot. We absolutely would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the hockey prospect NHL draft breakdown. A lot of people listening to the show are probably very familiar with the draft Bible, as it were, that Hockey Prospect put out for many, many years, called the NHL Black Book. This year, however, you have a brand new product available for people to really just go deep into the draft class, and that's called the NHL Draft Breakdown. It came out this week. So just want to give you an opportunity to tell us what it is, tell us why people need it, And for those who actually used to buy the Black Book, how is the NHL Draft breakdown similar or different to it?
Yeah, it's pretty similar in the sense that it's exactly the same thing, except the profiles are shorter. So we had like, we just decided last year that as far as writing goes, we wanted to take a step back because we just couldn't. It was too much, basically.
A little more
So
streamlined.
no more 2,000 word profile. So it's tough. It was tough to write. Also, it was tough to edit after the fact. So it was just like a lot of. It was very time consuming, basically. So that's the only thing that's changed. Like the profiles are more, like it says, breakdown. So we break down the players very more quickly. I don't know how many like people that bought the book. I think they really liked the book, but I don't know how excited they were about reading a 2,500 word profile about a player. I mean, so they're hardcore fans for sure, but like the average fan watching that doesn't know those prospects probably just want to get a quick summary of what that player is, what he does well, what he doesn't do well, and his projection, and that's what we give in the book. So like the typical stuff that we had in the Black Book are back. There are rating system or grades, or quotes from NHL staffer that have been in our book since I would say 2008, 17 maybe. So we got quotes from scouts, and they're scouts are funny. They're pretty honest. I mean, we are honest too. But
Scouts are
NHL
blunt.
staffer are
They're very blunt.
They don't care.
No sugar
So
coating.
there's a few good one in there that are I think people that buy the book will appreciate it. I would say why you want to buy it, because it's the most respected book on the market by NHL staffer.
Definitely.
They wouldn't give us those quotes if they didn't trust us. And also this year, with like the profiles being shorter, we dropped the price by 50%. So it's only $20 to get this book. And usually like our lists are looks pretty similar to what you'll see at the NHL Draft. We don't try to predict what will happen at the draft, but I think our philosophy of scouting is really, really similar to what NHL staff do. So that's why I think our lists always like look pretty good on draft day, because we see like scouting the same way a lot of teams do.
Definitely. And where can people go to purchase this book?
Hockeyprospect.com is the only place you can get the book. So only this year there's only like a PDF version of it. So it's, you buy it and it's right in your inbox. No print version this year, unfortunately. Just it was the sales of the print version were not as at the point where we want them to be the last few years. And also Amazon is not also really it's not super easy to work with them for books. So that was another reason why we didn't want to do the print version this year. So there you go.
That's all right. Instant gratification. Order and you have it immediately. And so that is hockeyprospect.com. If you're interested in checking out their rankings, in checking out anything about purchasing the NHL Draft Breakdown book and all of their coverage throughout the year. Jerome, he is the director of scouting for hockeyprospect.com, and we honestly value your insight so much, especially this time of year as we're gearing up for the draft. If you don't follow him on X already, you can do so at Jerome_Barube. And Jerome, it's just always a blast getting to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insight with us.
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
I really enjoyed talking to Jerome, not only because he's a wealth of knowledge, he's a good friend, but as he said there, this is not your regular, fan generated service. You often see rankings come out and they start to look the same after a while. And then, maybe a year after the draft, you see on The Athletic or elsewhere, they put out their articles, what we got wrong. The hockey prospect rarely gets things wrong.
No.
They're sometimes, as Jerome said, it appears that they're out on an island, but then when things line up, their evaluations of players match very closely with NHL teams, because as Jerome said, they scout like NHL scouts do, and that's why there's such a good resource for us and a good resource for our listeners. And Jerome named, he went through a number of prospects, but a couple of prospects that would fit very, very well with the Montreal Canadiens and what they're trying to do and what their needs are. Although I would say that they would have to move up to get one of those two prospects, not unlike what they did in the 2024 draft, moving up. They had a target. They wanted Michael Hage. They moved up and they got him. I think if the Canadiens are going to get a perfect fit for their rebuild, they're going to have to do something similar this draft.
Definitely. We always appreciate Jerome coming on the show. He's very fun to talk to and just a wealth of knowledge. And I'm always amazed by, even years and years and years after he and the rest of the team at Hockey Prospect have scouted young prospects, he can still recall all of the attributes for a player years later. He's just got a great memory for that kind of thing as well. So thank you, Jerome. We will have you back again soon. We have a question for all of you now. Our Canadiens Connection question of the week. Tell us what kind of player you think. Jerome talked a lot about, well, let's look at who's available likely in the first round, and do they fit with what the Canadiens need right now? So this question kind of relates to that. What kind of player do you think the Canadiens are missing the most? And will that player be available at pick 16 in this year's draft? It's kind of a two-parter. What kind of player do you think the Canadiens are really, really not desperate for, but what do they need the most? And is that kind of player or a specific player going to be available for them at pick 16 in the 2025 draft? Send us your answers. Rocket Sports text line 585-3-ROCKET, or drop a comment on YouTube or hit us up on social media. We cannot wait to hear your answers to this and share them with our listeners on next week's show. So get us your opinions. Start thinking about that draft. All right, we are going to take our final break here on the Canadiens Connection podcast. So we've got a brand new message from our sponsors over at DraftKings, a new incentive for you. So you don't want to miss that. Check that out and stick right there. We'll be right back here on the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
The NBA Finals are finally here, and this is your last shot to win some real cash before the season ends. The simplest way to get in on the action? Downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for two or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Nail your picks and you're heating up. Pick 6 brings upside with payouts up to 500 times. Ready to make your finals run? New DraftKings Pick 6 customers can toss in just $5 on your first entry, and you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code THPN. That's code THPN. New customers play $5, get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Ride the upside only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back once again to episode 352 of the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, follow us on social media. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Send us your answers to the Canadiens Connection question of the week. And hey, share this episode. All it takes is a quick tap of that share button, and you can send it off to a friend or family who's a Habs fan that might not be familiar with our podcast, or just send it off to one of your social media channels and share it there as well. It really goes a long way to helping us grow the show even more, and we really appreciate that. So if you could do that, it would take just a moment, and we'd really, really thank you for it. Don't forget our Canadiens Connection question of the week. We want to hear from you on this. What kind of player do you think the Canadiens are missing the most? And will that player be available at pick 16 in this year's draft? It's a tough question. You might need to put your thinking caps on about that a little bit. But it's a good kind of thing to chew on for a little bit. We're definitely interested in hearing what you have to say about that. So send in your responses to that. We did have some great answers to last week's question, which was which Habs prospects are you looking forward to seeing at training camp, and who is ready to make the jump to the Canadiens? Since we do have a longish episode today because we had not one but 2 interviews on today's show, we are going to hold off. We're going to hold some of your responses for next week. So we're going to make you wait with bated breath just a little bit longer to hear those, but it'll be worth it. Don't worry. In the meantime, we also know it's Father's Day weekend, and y'all need to get out there and enjoy the weekend. F1 weekend in Montreal, Father's Day weekend. Happy Father's Day to all of the dads out there, dads and granddads, and happy Father's Day to you, Rick.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day to all of our listeners, and thinking about all the male role models who've had positive impacts on all of our lives.
Absolutely. And we wish all of you a wonderful weekend, a wonderful week ahead. Enjoy the Formula One race if you're taking it in either live or on television. And we will see you again next Saturday, June 21st, for the very next episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast, right here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.